Well, the St. Louis Blues over their past three games this week went 1-1-1, leaving us pretty uncertain about what kind of team this is here. And so, other notable news this week, obviously Jordan Kyrou was healthy scratched against the Buffalo Sabres. Why was he benched, and what does this mean moving forward for him and for the team? Logan Mailloux, on the other hand, was just sent down to AHL Springfield earlier today after struggling to start the season in St. Louis. What's next for the young defenseman, and what's next for the Blues with all this going on and the back and forth results this week? We're going to talk about all that and more on this episode of Note News. Welcome in to another episode of Note News. It's John and Alec back with you. We're a St. Louis Blues podcast, and we go live twice a week. If you're new to Note News, we'd appreciate if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's the best way to help us out. Help us get to 550 and beyond. We're getting close to that one. Like this video. We're also on audio. If you listen to podcasts that way, you can find us on Spotify and Apple. Appreciate follow and review. And then follow us on socials, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, @NoteNewsPod. Alec, as I said at the top, some mixed results this week. I think our last episode was after the Oilers game. We were feeling pretty excited about this team. They had a great performance against one of the league's stronger teams in Edmonton. And then immediately after that, we saw a horrible showing against the Washington Capitals. It kind of felt like more of the same, back and forth, back and forth. Follow that with a shutout of the Buffalo Sabres. They looked decently strong in that one. And then a gut-wrenching loss last night against the Seattle Kraken. Where are you at with this team, and what are your reactions to this week's games?
I still can't quit this team. Like, I still believe that there's more coming, and that they're not going to be this far under 500 for the remainder of the season. But every time that they get a chance to show it, it's like they shoot themselves in the foot, and we're back to where we started as with the Kraken game last night. So I'm still holding out hope that there's a good hockey team in there, and I'm still a believer. But yeah, it's getting rough to watch, as Matt in the chat points out. It's been a hard year to be a Blues fan, and that's for sure. And it's only been like a month of hockey or two, uh, but we're starting to get into the time of year where our standings matter and wins matter.
Mm-hmm.
So all things considered, to go 1-1-1 in a week isn't the worst thing ever. I feel like when you step back and look at this team in a macro sense versus like the micro of watching every game and reacting to the moments, you feel a little bit better about this team, but it's still been pretty rough. So, um, I I'm still, like I said, I'm still holding out hope, but the boy, it's like every time I'm having a bad day, the Blues just want to make it worse.
Yeah, it's like that meme I've seen floating around. It's like, I'm having a horrible day. It's like, bet I can make it worse, and it's the Blues. That's kind of what they're doing. Um, yeah, I think the thing that we talked about last week was that there's still a good team in here somewhere. We saw it against Edmonton, and for that matter, we saw it again against Buffalo this week, and we saw flashes of it against Seattle. It was just, I think the issue here is consistency. We're going to talk big picture towards the end of this episode, so I don't want to blow through the topic entirely. But I mean, it just seems like they cannot put together two solid games or two solid periods even at times, and so I think there still is a good team in there. We've seen flashes for sure, but yeah, I mean, like every Blues fan is feeling right now, it's frustrating for sure. Um, I don't really have a lot to say on the Capitals game. It feels like it was a while ago. Just really disappointing, obviously, to see them go out and lay an egg like that. Um, I mean, I don't really have much to add, just because it's more of the same when it comes to what went wrong in that game. Um, Notable moment from Bennington, though, which is pretty funny. Um, the Buffalo game, though, I do want to talk about this one because, um, and I mean, it was really encouraging, and I want to start the conversation with Joel Hofer pitching a shutout. I think he, over his past couple of games, he did let in four last night, but I think he still looked really good last night as well against Seattle. So we saw him come in relief against the Capitals game, finish that one out after Benner had a rough start. We saw him pitch a shutout against the Sabres, and then we saw him play another full game last night. I think part of this is that in recent games, Bennington uh, has had most of the workload, and this is probably making up for that a little bit. But how encouraging is it to see Hofer looking like his old self again?
It was a big game. It was a big win for sure. I think I want to see another performance like that out of Hofer
Yeah,
before I'm really like raising the banner or whatever. That Hofer's back. I think that there's still a level to be reached with him. That the biggest thing for goalies is consistency, and that's the hardest thing for goalies because goalies will goalie, and that's just how it works sometimes. But to give a little bit better analysis here, I think Hofer was getting beat a lot over the top, and you'd like to see him maybe play up on the puck a little bit more instead of so far back in the crease to block more of those shots, um, as well as his defense not leaving him out to dry. So it was encouraging to see, and it was really nice to see. I think I'm still waiting and holding out on Hofer though before I'm really like raising the alarm bells that we've got a good goaltender once again in St. Louis.
yeah,
Uh,
I think that's fair.
yeah.
Yeah, see how it goes over his next couple of starts. I think that's totally fair. Um, Another story I think with these past couple of games, and we can sort of pivot to talk about last night's game as well. It's kind of like when it comes to scoring goals, it was like a tale of two different teams here. So against Buffalo, it was these depth guys that were scoring. You had Matthew Joseph with that just fantastic shorthanded goal. Um, Great two-way play there to strip the puck, use his speed to get down the ice, and then just put it past Luukkonen down there. So really great goal from Matty Joe. And then the other two goals came from Bugstad and Justin Falk. So I mean, and those three players were the only ones that had points on all three goals. So um, really interesting game scoring wise. And then we saw last night against Seattle. It was a little bit of a different story. It was the guys you'd kind of expect to be scoring the goals in Holloway, Dvorsky, and Kyrou. So I mean, offensively, I think you'd hope for more from your top guys, but I guess it is encouraging that some of those depth pieces can get the job done when they need to. Um, I think I don't know, just another trend that I noticed. But were you watching the game last night and have any? Did you have any thoughts on that game?
I caught some of it. I thought that they played a pretty good game for the first couple periods, but couldn't stick it out in the end, and that really seems to be a just an inexplicable like
It's so
issue with
weird.
this team.
Yeah,
It's truly unimaginable how bad they are at closing out or playing in 6-on-5 situations. And I don't know what even the solution could be, but um, I think that they played a good game of hockey that they ended up losing. So it's just I don't know. It's just tough to know what to do with this team.
yeah,
They just find ways to lose these games, these close games, and it's really frustrating. But I think that the pendulum is going to swing back the other way at some point. I mean, if they can't keep playing all these games where they're out chancing and outplaying their opponents and still finding ways to lose, that just isn't a sustainable way to play. Or it isn't a sustainable style of hockey like that you'd expect the pendulum to swing back the other way at some point. So I'm I'm at, I'm starting to become at a loss for words here with how they're managing to lose all these games. But even then, the hole that they're digging, like they're 5-8-3 right now. That's 3 wins in a row away from being above 500 again, basically. And that's not like that out of the question. Like that's three wins in a row is not a crazy stretch of hockey. Any
You'd think that, and then I'm just laughing because last season it took them until February to do that. But yeah, no, you're right.
yeah, and it might take until December, January, February again, just given how they're looking to start the season. But the way that they're starting or the hole that they're digging is really not like it's not that insurmountable still, and
It's
that's
not.
what I can't believe, just because of how bad everything feels and how disgusting some of these games have been to watch. That they're still like holding out and having a decent-ish year to where they could still salvage this thing. So I don't know, man. It's a tough team to talk about.
It is a tough team to talk about. I mean, they are close to 500, um, but it's a tough Western Conference. I think we should come back to this towards the end once we pivot to some big picture stuff. Um, so I think these are all good thoughts, but I want to make sure we hit some of our other topics today. But last thing I'll say on this one, just on the 6-on-5 stuff, I'm with you. I'm just baffled, and I cannot fathom how they are just unable to just get like one more block. You know what I mean? Like it seems ridiculous, like how much this happens, and just these last minute goals and shot. Like I'm pretty sure that goal went in like pretty damn close to 1.6 seconds left on the clock again, and it just felt like PTSD with that one. It was devastating. Like that's just a horrible way to lose. And so the Blues did plenty of things wrong in that game, and they should not have been in a position to allow a game-winning shot like that at the end. And I don't want to blame things on officiating, but I will say that that non-call and goalie interference was really frustrating. And I can understand why calls like that wouldn't be why plays like that wouldn't be called goalie interference. I can understand that. But what's frustrating is that they are just so inconsistent with how that rule is applied. If they kind of across the board didn't call plays and goals like that for goalie interference, that's one thing. But we saw against Vancouver, their last game against Vancouver, one went the Blues way that was arguably like less interference. So I'm not alone in being sort of baffled by that rule, but I just wanted to air that out as another grievance here. I think that one was a little more blatant of a missed call, in my opinion, but unlucky. Unlucky, it feels like.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can't add a ton of analysis to goalie interference because it's just the most
Yeah,
like the league will sometimes just throw their hands up and shrug and say we have no idea what's going on. It feels like so. Yeah, I mean, unlucky is the right way to say it.
for sure. Um, okay, well, why don't we pivot to one of our main topics for today? Another big thing that happened this week was some news around Jordan Kyrou, right after the loss to the Capitals, in which I don't think anyone had a good game, frankly. Um, the choice by Montgomery in the next game against the Sabres was to healthy scratch Jordan Kyrou. This was his first healthy scratch since I believe April of 2021. So it's been quite a while since he has been in that situation. He just played 2 back-to-back seasons where he played all 82 games, and so obviously that won't happen again this season, but hopefully he can get to 81. So I think a lot of Blues fans were surprised by this and didn't agree with the decision. Where do you stand, Alec? Like where do you fall on the spectrum of uh, your reaction to this move by Monty to sit to healthy scratch Jordan Kyrou?
I was also surprised by it, and I was also not happy with the decision. I think this was the first real Montgomery decision that I was couldn't find a reason to believe in, or couldn't find something to go his way for. Of all guys, Jordan Kyrou, I mean, he's been one of, if not our best players this year so far. And if you're trying to win games, it feels like that's just not a really serious way to go about doing so.
Yeah.
So I was pretty disappointed with it. Now, it ended up working out in the team's favor, I think, because he seemed to be playing with a lot more fire when he came back, and the
Mhm.
team played pretty well that night too. But I still don't know that I agree with the process here. I think that Kyrou is a guy who has dealt with so much of this in his career. To throw more gasoline or fuel onto the fire of the Kyrou like issues really feels questionable from Monty's end. Like, so there's the issue of the trade rumors. There's the issue of Kyrou's mental side of things, that he's already been dealing with this for a long time now. And there's the issue with he's been the best player on the ice for the Blues, arguably, into the season. It's like him and Snuggerud, pretty much. Um, and so, yeah, I wasn't really happy with this one, and I guess it worked out, but this is the first time I've been like openly critical of Jim Montgomery.
Yeah, and I think it's warranted, to be honest. I mean, it worked out, but I think the Blues probably got a little bit lucky with a shutout from Joel Hofer. That game could have gone very differently um, if Hofer wasn't really on it. You know, even if he let in a couple, but wasn't horrible, that still could have gone the wrong way. And to not have your biggest goal scoring threat out there, it's certainly a choice. I think I'm not saying that I condone it or agree with the choice, but I think the reason behind the healthy scratch is more or less just an effort thing. Like that was sort of my interpretation of um, the choice there by Montgomery is it's more of a compete and an effort thing, and maybe that's not just based on gameplay. Maybe that's a practice thing or something like that. Like that's kind of the only explanation I can find that makes any sort of sense to me. But even then, I think that's um, kind of being generous, I guess, with Montgomery, because I don't know that you can look at Jordan Kyrou's all around play so far this season and say that he's not putting in effort when it comes to the games. So to me, like
Yeah.
this has to be something that was outside of like the games, you know? Because if it was, then it was just doesn't make any sense at all, you know? Because I think he has been the Blues. I mean, probably the Blues' best defensive player, like certainly the best defensive forward, arguably the best defensive player out there, and so to sit that guy is a big risk, and hopefully it works. But like you said, it is risking a lot with a guy who has gone through a lot of these struggles before when it comes to sort of like mentally. I mean, like dealing with struggles in the sense that he's kind of been like the whipping boy for like what for when this team is struggling, and so I really don't think he's been the issue. So I don't know. Like I said, or like you said, I guess it worked out. He had a solid game last night against Seattle. Scored what could have been the game-winning goal, but was ultimately called back. Um, and I think the question on a lot of fans' minds, and I think let's talk about this one, is why was it Kyrou and why was it not someone like Pavel Buchnevich? Buchnevich
Yeah.
is earning um, almost the exact same amount as Kyrou. He's got an extension that kicked in this year. We got our first comment of the stream earlier today, about 20 minutes ago, was that someone wants Booch gone, and I think a lot of fans are confused why you sit a guy like Kyrou, who's been one of your best offensive producers at times this year, right? He had um, that um, like 7 or 8 game point streak, but he's been so good defensively. He's just been so good. And then Buchnevich, you can argue that he positions himself well on the ice, right? Like he finds himself in a lot of positions where he could generate offense or he could break up a play. But I think the reason why a lot of fans are frustrated with him right now is because he hasn't been able to to do that. Like he's been in the position to, but he just the puck bounces off his stick when he has a chance for a tip in, or he overskates a puck, or you know lets a defender get by him. It feels like just on both sides, he's not the guy that we've expected him to be. I think that guy is still in there. I'm not one of these guys who one of these fans who wants him gone already. Personally, I think there's no way he fell off so hard so fast. I could be wrong about that, but I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt for a little while longer. But thoughts on this one. I mean, as Rob said in the chat, Monty is quoted as saying he likes Buchnevich's defense, but I mean, like Rob pointed out, and like we mentioned, um, he hasn't been that great defensively either. I mean, it's there's been a lot of issues, and he continues to get top line and top six deployment. So thoughts on Buchnevich and uh, his early season struggles so far?
It has been a struggle. It's been truly hard to watch for someone who's still like not that old in his hockey playing career to just kind of fall off a cliff.
Yeah,
Um, it's tough. It's so tough, and I don't know what it is with Booch. It does seem like some of it is bad luck for sure. That he's just getting bad bounces, like you said. The puck just bounces off his stick, or he doesn't get credited with a point on a play. But at some point, like you gotta wonder, like where for consistent seasons now, he's been decreasing and reducing in point totals and goal totals. Like, is this just it for Pavel Buchnevich? I'm certainly having a lot more of those thoughts now than I was previously because I think there was always a lot of hope with Buchnevich. Um, I don't know. There was always hope that things could get better, but a lot of it, like if we're being honest, was kind of blind faith. And
sure.
now it seems to be paying off in the other way and showing why a guy like that shouldn't be trusted now. Um, he struggles on the power play. He struggles in the offensive zone. It seems like he isn't doing much creatively. It just seems like he's not a fit for this system. I still think there's a good hockey player in Buchnevich, but I don't know that St. Louis is the place where it's going to be unlocked and really be the place to go. When he signed that extension, we were talking about how it was good to have to keep, there was risk, but it was good to keep good hockey players around, and that was the hope. But
Mhm.
Buchnevich has not lived up to that at all, I think is fair to say, and um, hasn't shown that same consistent level of that he was known for throughout his career. And so I just worry about the future for Buchnevich and what it looks like in St. Louis or out of St. Louis. Um, I don't know. I'm struggling to find ways to apologize for Bucci's lack of play because it just hasn't been good enough, and it hasn't been the Pavel Buchnevich that we know and the reason that he got re-signed. It seemed like as soon as he got that deal, or even a little before he got that deal, maybe there were warning signs that just have all come to fruition. And so it just seems like he doesn't really fit this style of hockey. And that's a really frustrating thing because that's not something that can really easily be fixed. It either takes the player to change his game or a change in scenery pretty much. So I still think that Buchnevich has some good years left of hockey in him, but I'm starting to wonder if they come outside of St. Louis.
Yeah, could be. Could be for sure. Yeah, I mean, I am still, I think, a little bit patient with him. I mean, I'm running out of patience for sure, but I mean, like he has not earned his extension. He has not lived up to that, not at all. And so that is um, concerning for sure, like you said. So interested to see how that one will play out, and if a trade is explored. He's got a no trade clause, full no trade clause, so he would have to obviously approve a move anywhere. But would be interested to see how that plays out. He he carries an $8 million cap hit through 2030 2031 through that season. So um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to fix him or what to say, what else to say on that point, but need more out of that guy for sure. Um, any other players or sort of bets you want to talk about before we get on to the other main piece of news for the day?
Um, I think the next one I want to talk about is the main piece of news. So,
For sure. Well, just wanted to point out. Do you know who the leading point total? Which players are leading in points for the Blues? It's a three-way tie.
is it Snuggerud?
It is not. He is tied for second though. He's got one fewer
Okay.
point than these three.
Well, it's got to be Kyrou.
He's one of them.
I really thought it was Snuggerud. I
One
don't
of them
know.
one of them is very obvious. It's Robert Thomas.
Robert Thomas. Okay.
The
I
third
wasn't sure
is
if he had gotten back up here.
Yeah, it's all coming from assists. The third is Pius Suter. He's got 5 goals and 4 assists. So they're all tied for 9 points. So half of those guys. I did just want to say before we pivot, Rob reminded me in the chat about Matthew Joseph. I mean, I personally
Oh
think this
yeah,
guy
yeah,
needs
yeah.
to be playing like every night. He has been when it comes, if Montgomery wants effort, right? Like that's why he sat Kyrou. If he wants effort, play Matthew Joseph. I mean, he has really impressed me, and he has been the type of player that I was like hoping to see when they acquired him. I think last summer I was like, this has a lot of upside. We didn't really get to see that last year. So far this year, we're getting that. And then Justin Falk, I actually do want to point out, I have been impressed with him, and so I think if he keeps playing the way he's playing right now, it's second pair stuff for sure. Um, but if he keeps playing like he is right now, that's a useful player, and that's like if they're in it, that's not someone I would trade personally at the deadline. Anyways, okay. Well, why don't we get on to the main piece of news for the day, which is that Logan Mailloux got demoted. He was sent down to AHL Springfield, and in a corresponding move, Hunter Skinner was recalled, and so he'll join the Blues. So yeah, I mean it's no secret that Mailloux has been struggling to start the season. He looks a little outmatched, out of his depth, despite looking promising in training camp. So um, the Blues will be hoping that he's gonna work on his game down in the AHL, and hopefully he knows what he needs to work on and can get started on that and eventually make his return. Um, but as Matt in the chat pointed out, Skinner looked pretty solid in camp as well. So maybe I think I think he was one that some fans kind of wanted to see called up whenever I believe it was whenever Kessel was called up. Um, I think I had that right. Anyways, um, So thoughts on the Mailloux demotion and what we've seen out of him this year.
I mean, it feels like the most talked about story in hockey right now
Yeah.
is the what is it, r/bottom left Mayu as the
Yeah.
subreddit
It's
devoted
yeah.
to
Yeah.
how poor he's been.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's well documented at this point. I think anyone who's watched the Blues, I think anyone who's been around hockey on the internet knows that Logan Mailloux is not ready for the NHL. And as of right now, okay, there's some nuance I'm going to have with this take
All right.
here, but as of
Spell it
right
out.
now, it seems like Doug Armstrong misevaluated where Mayu was at in his development.
Yeah.
Now that I'm not saying per se that this is an automatic loss of the trade and that there's nothing salvageable from this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the case. I think that there's still hope that Mayu can become something really great, and you've seen a lot of the flashes and the tools of that. But it's just the consistent down or defensive like minute to minute play has not been good enough. But I think it's fair to say that Army did misevaluate where this guy was at in his developmental cycle and that he was ready to step in and make an impact immediately, because he has not been. He has not been NHL ready at all. He looks like a guy who needs another year in the AHL, and that's tough. And that's tough considering what you gave up for to get him. Um, so yeah, I think that this is a very charged situation. A lot of people online have been. It seems like anytime your GM does great things, everyone is slow to give him compliments, but anytime he makes a mistake, they're quick to, jump on the Fire Army train again. And I'm seeing that pop back up and people saying he was never good. Like, okay, we do this every time, so I'm just not even going to engage with it. But definitely, this was a miss, and I think that's fair to say on a pretty good resume, all things considered. That this was an evaluation miss and something that hopefully Steiner can learn from to get more established guys who have proven it at the NHL level. Because Mayu isn't ready, and he, like I said, he looks like he needs another year in the AHL,
Mm.
which is really tough considering how long he's already played at that level. You'd think that there isn't much development to come, but he wasn't. I don't think he registered a point this season yet. Correct me
Mm.
if I'm wrong, but
No.
yeah,
He's 0 points, -11 rating or -12 rating. Excuse me.
yeah.
I guess who else has a
Um,
-12 rating? Guess who's tied with him? Any guesses? Not that
uh,
plus minus is like really a valuable stat in any regard, but this is
is it Booch?
it's Shen actually.
Mm.
Yeah.
Anyways, um, yeah. Gosh, there's a lot of bad going on in Bluesland right now. And Mayu's part of it for sure. We had high hopes for the kid, and it just sucks to see that it's kind of a wasted year of development now. That we thought he could step in and make an impact, and that isn't the case. So, looking for a, I don't know if you call it a bounce back or not, but looking for a significantly better effort from Mayu in his development. And that development can still come for sure. That's why I'm saying that, the results of the trade, I think we'll know 5 years down the line more than anything. But yeah, it hasn't been good with Mayu. It hasn't been good enough, and I think this was the right move, as hard as it was to make.
I think it was the right move too, and I would agree that this trade was a bit of a misevaluation in the sense that you were getting a 1-for-1 as far as young players who were NHL ready and could contribute. So um, the timeline is a little bit messed up for lack of a better term. So it's going to take some time, but hopefully this is something um, where Mayu, like I said, knows what he needs to do next. I think this time spent in the NHL, while disappointing and I mean not pretty to put it nicely, could prove to be very valuable for him and for the Blues. And so um, it's gonna take some time. I've got a lot of thoughts around Mayu. I think there have been certain games and instances where, with his skating and sort of shot, he looked a little bit threatening in the offensive zone, and that's a good thing. But nowhere near enough, and it never really translated to real results. And defensively, just looked like one of the worst players we have seen in a while on that side put on a Blues jersey. So very clearly a lot to work on here. And so yeah, I mean, hopefully they still get a productive player out of it at the end of the day. It's just, I think, after still, I mean, he has played nine games this season, and he played 12 minutes per game. So I think, again, it'll just take time to really know. But as of right now, they're losing this trade, I guess. um, so that's disappointing. But like you said, I've been proven wrong by Army enough times to um, know better than to say he's washed or anything like that. So um, yeah. So when it comes to, like, do you have any thoughts on um, what Mayu needs to work on, and when we might see him back at the NHL level? I think that's the next big couple of questions.
Um, I think n- his positioning and to not be over aggressive with the puck. He really likes to handle the puck and skate it himself. And I think as a defenseman, unless you're Quinn Hughes or Kale McCarr, that's like not your job. Um, and I think his overall puck handling is at times good, but isn't consistent at all. So needs to gain consistency in that level, and then needs to learn how to like be in better positions to block shots. I can't remember honestly, like I can't remember the last time I watched Mayu block a shot, and that's like the main role of a defenseman. So I think that I think that the positioning of his body is the biggest thing on defense that he just does not have a good feel for at all. And that's where I would like to see him sort of elevate his game a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I think I don't have a lot to add, but yeah, defensive positioning and just like decision making. And this was like one of the
Yeah.
parts of his profile that we knew when he was coming over, is that he makes poor decisions a lot of the time. I think the most notable of which was there was an obvious hand pass that he tried to break up, and it would have stopped the play, but it led to a goal. So like just stuff like that. I think getting into the habit of making those decisions a little better. But now the Blues know what know what he is, and I think keeping him in the AHL will, you know, give him a little bit more of give him some more sheltered minutes, but hopefully he can take on a decent role down there in the AHL, and just work away. And I think keeping him in the system will be beneficial for them to know what they're getting out of him moving forward. How about Hunter Skinner though? I mean, do you have any thoughts on the call up from the AHL for Skinner, and how we might see him deployed?
Um, I think that, it's nice to get another body um on the back end there.
Mm-hmm.
To be frank, I am not as familiar with Hunter Skinner as a guy like I honestly thought Leo Loof was going to be the call up. Um, but it seems like he's a AHL lifer, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, from what I've heard about Skinner, he is a solid defensive defenseman, kind of like what we thought Tyler Tucker was years back, or a year back.
Mhm.
So if he can provide that level, if he can be Tyler Tucker, that is amazing. Um, for me for Skinner, it's just a wait and see. It's to see how he can fit in on this team, but I think he can play well enough in his minutes to not be a liability.
Mhm.
From what I've heard about him, and that's all you can ask for a third pair defenseman.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I think we'll see him deployed in a pretty similar way as Matthew Kessel has gotten so far, and I think he's looked. I mean, I think Kessel has looked decent in his minutes. So yeah, remains to be seen. Like you, I don't have a lot of thoughts um, on Skinner. I'm not as familiar with his game, to be honest. Um, but yeah, I'm sure there'll be some reactions from us sometime soon. I did want to point to a couple, or really one other guy, just to end on a lighter note with this defenseman prospect discussion before we, or I guess young defenseman discussion before we pivot to talking big picture stuff. Um, guess who is the fifth ranked uh, leading? Guess who's ranked fifth in points among defensemen in the OHL?
Is it our guy Adam Yurchek?
That's the one. He's having a great year so far. In 16 games, he's got 5 goals and 11 assists. And Brantford looks like the best team in the entire OHL there. So I think he's in a good place and is so far having that consistent and productive season that we were hoping to see out of him this year. So I think that's promising. All right. Why don't we pivot to big picture stuff now? So you said you had some thoughts on this point, and if anyone has any big picture questions for us, let us know, and we'll try to get to those. So yeah, thoughts on this Blues team moving forward. They are. Let me just add some context to our discussion real quick. They are obviously 5-8-3. They have 13 points and are, as of today, 5 points out of a playoff spot. So it's not like um, the Eastern Conference where there has been a little bit more parity to start the year. Um, they're kind of falling behind quickly here and need to string some wins together if they want to get back in this race. But um, what are your thoughts moving forward for the team as a whole?
5 points out of a playoff spot is not a terrible place to be. That's the difference between being a 90-point team and a 95-point team. Like that's
I
not.
think, yeah, in theory, but pace wise, they're
Oh
uh,
yeah,
not not a 90-point team.
right, right. It would take something to turn around, but
Sure.
as for where they stand today, like I still just I still have to stay on my team. Like I still have to stay on my team. I don't know. I can't look at this team, look at how they've been playing hockey, and be honest that they're one of the worst teams in the NHL. It's just not how I view things. I think that they've had some frustrating moments and that have led to goals against that um do you that do lead to like really painful watches, and I think that the product they've been putting out has been really painful to watch. But at the same time, I think that they're staying competitive in a lot of these games, and I feel like I've seen enough sports in my life to know that it doesn't always last. Sometimes it does, and you have those nightmare seasons where the Blues had one just a few years back in 2023, where everything goes wrong and it stays bad. But I don't know. We've seen those good nights of hockey in them, that I'm still holding out hope that they can turn this thing around and start to climb in the standings, because they're not that far out of it as of right now. They're only like 3 regulation wins away from being a decent hockey team again. That's not that far of a gap to climb. I know it looks really bad right now. I know it feels really bad watching it, but the way they've been playing hockey has not been as atrocious as we'd all like to think. I mean, I don't know if you've seen. I guess this is you, the viewer. I don't know if um, listeners, if you've seen some of the advanced analytical models that post on hockey websites, like on Twitter or on Reddit or wherever you get your content. But like, a lot of them have the Blues in the upper right quadrant or in the upper left quadrant, depending on the statistic. And if this were a Bleeding Blue article, I could link those. So go check out my most recent one, because I did, and you can see a visualization of what I'm talking about. But like, their 5v5, 5-on-5 expected goals for percentage is still really high. It's top 10 in the league, last I checked at least. And their 5-on-5 metrics, like expected goals allowed, are still pretty solid. It was 14th last I checked. Now that could be outdated, but that's still top half. So the metrics, the advanced analytics still like this team, and I feel like the eye test shows that there's some good in this team still too. It's just that they make a lot of boneheaded mistakes and do some dumb things, like giving up a giveaway right in front of the net. Um, that I don't know. I I think that they can turn around. I think that they can wipe out those mental mistakes and become a good hockey team again within this season. So I'm still hopeful.
I'm hopeful too. I think it's gonna have to it's gonna have to happen fast though. Like I think time is running out for them to get this back on track. So I tend to be an optimistic sports fan. That's sort of how I like to root for my teams, until they give me concrete evidence. And I like you said, I wouldn't say that this is concrete evidence that they're bad, because there is a lot of good. Um, so I mean, we've seen this in sports before. We've seen this out of the Blues before. Like it's not out of the question that they can get back on track, in my opinion. And so. Um, but like I said, I think it's going to have to happen very, very quickly. And I think if they had won that game tonight, or last night, and they had closed that out and won 2 in a row there, it'd be a lot easier to come on here and say, positive things. But they didn't. So like I think, they're gonna have to, in my opinion, they're gonna have to win the next two. They're playing Calgary in a couple nights and Philly a few nights after that. The stretch after that, there are some winnable games, but they're going on to play Vegas, Toronto, the New York and New Jersey teams, Ottawa, Utah, Anaheim, who looks great. Like there's a tough stretch coming up, and so, um, I think they're gonna have to get some wins where they can, and like we saw against the Oilers, they can win against some of the better teams and better players in the league. Um, the big issue just seems to be consistency for me, like period to period, game to game, and it's inconsistency in a lot of different areas. It's in goaltending, it's in defense and scoring, but. I've seen enough flashes and enough games recently, even in some of the losses, where I think there's reason for hope that they can get it back on track. But it's like I said, it's going to have to happen quickly. This is something that Rob asked earlier on in the chat. Going back to find it, I think that's the thing I would point to is just inconsistency. Like it feels like they ride the lows and too long, and I think Monty said it at the beginning of the season, something like, when we win we get happy and we get lazy. So like I think they need to do a better job of um, not letting the results affect them so much. But Rob sort of asked, what's one thing that's been a big problem, or a couple things to point to. And then he also asked another question, which we'll get to in a sec. But do you have any more thoughts on some of the biggest issues for this team?
It's too many giveaways in the defensive zone.
Sure.
I think that have been leading to goals against in especially a lot of those early games. Uh, I think that the giveaways have been, and then I think it's the lack of passing consistency that's been really hurting this team, especially like
Oh
their
yeah.
transition game through the neutral zone has been really poor. And I think that's something that needs to get coached out of this team if they want to improve and get into a better standing, because bad teams or good teams know how to make passes and don't consistently mess up passes. Um, so that's what I would point to is consistency through the transition game. The transition game has not been good enough, and then the defensive zone giveaways have been just a nail in the coffin.
Yeah, that's a great one. I think just sort of like puck control. I think if we had to like label that with one thing, it just whether it's like you said, passing or maintaining possession or skating through the neutral zone, they just cannot keep possession. So that's a great point. It has been killing their momentum in a lot of situations. Okay, other question from Rob was, would you trade Shen with the way this season is going? And I think I'll say this: I like not now. I wouldn't do it now. It's not the first move I would make personally, but I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to it once we get closer to the trade deadline personally. So, if season continues to go this way, I think you have to salvage some value where you can, and I think Shen's in the big picture, Shen's days in St. Louis are sort of coming to a close, and Robert Thomas hopefully is ready to take on the captaincy after him. So I mean, that's a trade that I wouldn't be against making. I would just say not yet. But what are your thoughts?
I think I agree 100%. I think you let the value build up. You let the pressure of the trade deadline drive up the market if you're going to trade him anyways. Because right now it would just be like the first offer that you get, you take, which isn't a good way to do business. So I'd agree. And I think that there's still, time for this team too. That trading away Braden Shen would essentially punt on the season before we're even a quarter of the way through. So
Yeah,
I I would still be careful about that.
yeah, for sure. Last question. That this is just one from me that I think we should get to. I don't think that no matter how badly this season goes, I don't think it's going to be a blow it up and start over type of season. I just don't see that happening. Um, However, I think we depend like if the season does go wrong, I think we could see like a type of retool or whatever, right? Like a very very abbreviated one where they try to sell off some expiring assets. Anyways, at what point do you think the Blues should shift into that mode? Like, how bad does it have to get in your mind? Because, look, I mean, like, I came on a podcast uh, earlier this year and said that, like, I came onto a podcast, an episode of this podcast. I think it was in February or March, and I was like, "It's over. Season's over. Like, let's trade some pieces and see what you can get." Um, and they very very quickly proved me wrong. So like I've learned my lesson not to overreact too much too soon. So what are your thoughts? I mean, do you see a result like that where they have to trade off some assets, and if so, like when should they make that decision?
I think it has to get worse than it is right now to make that decision. I think with them still being within what 5 points of a playoff spot, only 3 games out of a respectable record, like I think that I think that it takes a lot more. It would take a lot more to truly give up on the season as a whole because there's still a lot of hockey left to play. A lot of standings change before by the end of the season. I mean, just look at last year alone, and obviously that took a 12-game win streak. I'm not saying that the Blues have to be that far out of it, but um, the West right now is pretty wide open, and the Blues could be a surprise team to fill that void. So I think it would have to get pretty significantly worse to make that move.
Yeah, I think I think I agree. And again, I don't think it's a decision. Like I said, I mean, same thing with Shen. It's not a decision that I think they should make too hastily, just because there is a lot of talent in this team, and it's not just like the quote unquote old guys, right? I mean, you've got a lot of promising young players on this team that are arguably some of the best contributors, and so
Hmm.
I think there's potential there. I, I'm more just wait and see and try to figure it out right now. Because it's not like if you go ahead and sell everything off, you're going to be necessarily better off than if you wait. So like, why not see if you can fix it from within first? I mean, that's always the best way to to improve is to fix from within rather than externally. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Any last points or thoughts or questions around this team?
Um, I mean, I think I made my points.
Yeah, just to preview the week ahead. As I mentioned, they're playing uh, 3 home games this week. One against Calgary on I believe that would be Tuesday. One against the Philadelphia Flyers on Thursday, I believe, and then Vegas on Friday. So a couple winnable games in there, a couple tough ones. I guess depending on your thoughts on Philly right now. But maybe they'll just go 1-1-1 again, and then we'll come back on and be in the exact same spot. But hopefully not. Hopefully that won't be the case. So we'll be here to talk more pucks sometime soon. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. If you haven't already, we'd appreciate if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's the best way to help us out. Like this video, follow, rate, review wherever you listen, and then follow us on socials: Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Note News Pod. Thanks for tuning in. As I said, we will see you next time, and let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues.